Hello and a very warm welcome to the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this evening's headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha survey flood-affected areas in Chennai. Modi announces additional 1,000 crore rupees as assistance. Home Minister Rajnath Singh responds to discussion on floods, describes Chennai as an island cut off from all national and state highways, assures all possible central assistance. Rajya Sabha members resolve controversy over Kumari Selja's caste bias statement. Union Minister Piyush Goyal expresses regret for his remarks. Justice Tirath Singh Thakur sworn in as the country's 43rd Chief Justice of India. 63-year-old Thakur will have a tenure of over 1 year, will retire on January 4, 2017. And British jets bomb Islamic State targets in East Syria hours after the UK Parliament sanctioned the expansion of its war beyond Iraq borders. Well, the Prime Minister has announced a 1,000 crore rupees relief to Tamil Nadu as the state grapples with floods, the worst in more than a century. The capital, Chennai, is the worst affected, with the southern part of the city being worst hit. Residents living along the Adyar River have been advised to vacate the area as the river overflows. So far, over 250 people have been killed.
As Chennai grapples with the worst flooding it has witnessed in over a century, there is a small glimmer of hope. The Met Department says the worst is over for the Tamil Nadu capital. However, the next 48 hours will be crucial as rain is expected to recede a little.
Next 48 hours, entire Tamil Nadu coast is going to receive fairly widespread rainfall with isolated heavy to very heavy, and at a few places extremely heavy rainfall.
Rains might have abated, but excessive discharge of water from the Chembarambakam lake on the outskirts of Chennai has flooded new areas, bringing the threat of dislocation for thousands of people. Milk and other essentials like vegetables and even bread is in short supply. The Air Force and Army are rushing in with essential supplies.
രാവിലെ 7 മണിക്ക് വന്ന ട്രെയിൻ രാത്രി 2:30 മണിക്കാണ് ബീച്ച് റോഡിലെത്തിയത്. ബീച്ച് റോഡ് റെയിൽവേ സ്റ്റേഷൻ അതും വഴിമാറ്റി വിട്ട് അങ്ങേ ചെന്നിട്ട് ആരും ഒന്ന് ചൊല്ലകൂടിയില്ല, ഇത് ട്രെയിൻ ഇവിടെ വരേക്കേ ഉള്ളൂ എന്നുകൂടി ആരും പറയുന്നില്ല. അവിടെ കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടിട്ട് தண்ணி குடிக்கிறதுக்கு தண்ணி இல்லை.
சாலையும் கிடையாது 10 வருஷமா இருக்கணுங்க. இது வரைக்கும் இந்த மாதிரி மழை பார்த்தது கிடையாது. இப்பதான் இந்த வருஷம் இந்த மாதிரி மழை. அதனால வந்து வீட்டுலாம் ஃபுல்லா தண்ணி வந்துருச்சு, படுக்க முடியல. அதனால வந்து கார் எடுத்துட்டு வந்து இங்க விட்டு படுத்துருக்கோம்.
हमारी ट्रेन आज 10 बजे की थी तमिलनाडु भोपाल के लिए, लेकिन अब वो कैंसिल हो गई है और पानी इतना है कि हम लोग वहाँ जा भी नहीं पा रहे हैं. तो हम लोग यहाँ पिछले 4 घंटे से बैठे हुए हैं, लेकिन कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं है.
Teams have so far been able to rescue over 50,000 people from flooded areas and they are now lodged in relief centers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took stock of the situation in Tamil Nadu. He conducted an aerial survey of the affected areas. The Prime Minister also met Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha, promising her all possible support.
I have directed that rupees 1,000 crore be released immediately by the Government of India to Tamil Nadu for immediate relief. This is over and above the rupees 940 crore which was released earlier.
Teams of the NDRF, Army, Navy and Police and Fire Service personnel are working round the clock to reach those affected. The water level in the Adyar River that has been in spate for 48 hours has risen rapidly, cutting off the arterial Annasalai or Mount Road. The NDRF has doubled the number of its personnel on the ground to 1,200 and have now begun going deeper into the affected areas, including in neighbouring Puducherry. In neighbouring state Andhra Pradesh, at least 55 people have died and heavy damage to crops and property has been reported. Low-lying areas in the state are inundated as rivers and rivulets overflowed. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Clearly, of course, Chennai is grappling with the worst floods that it has seen in over a century. And these are visuals that are coming to you from Chennai, where we can see several rescue teams, of course, ensuring that some kind of relief is given to those who are stranded there on buildings, on rooftops as well in Chennai. Of course, the Prime Minister was there earlier in the day to take an aerial survey of Tamil Nadu and see what the situation really is like there. He has announced a 1,000 crore rupees relief for Tamil Nadu to be given immediately. Of course, the situation is extremely grim even as we speak at the moment. Several low-lying areas continue to be inundated. Over 250 people have lost their lives thus far in the flooding that has taken place in this particular season. Let's not forget, this is the second time that this kind of an incident is happening in weeks in Chennai, and it has really left the city in a state of shock. Meanwhile, Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh today termed the situation in flood-hit Chennai as very alarming. He assured the centre will extend all assistance to the state governments in dealing with natural calamities. Responding to a discussion in the Lok Sabha, the Home Minister said Chennai had become an island as it has been cut off from all national and state highways. In his reply, the Home Minister listed out the relief work in the city. Let's take a listen in.
केंद्र सरकार आपत्ति की इस घड़ी में राज्य सरकारों को हर संभव सहायता दे रही है। एनडीआरएफ की 28 टीमें, जिसमें 944 पर्सनल्स हैं, विद 102 बोट्स एवं आर्मी के 2 कॉलम्स, 124 पर्सनल वो तमिलनाडु में रिलीफ एवं रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन के लिए लगाया गया है। अभी तक राज्य सरकार एवं एनडीआरएफ की टीमों द्वारा 40,432 व्यक्तियों को सुरक्षित स्थानों पर पहुंचाया गया है। नेवी की 12 नावें और 255 पर्सनल डिप्लॉय किए जा चुके हैं। इसके अलावा आईएनएस अरिहंत, 20 डाइवर्स, 3 नावें, 1 मेडिकल टीम व 1 हेलीकॉप्टर लेकर वायक से रवाना कर दी गई है और अब तक यह चेन्नई पहुंच गई होंगी। भारतीय एयरफोर्स ने इस पूरी कार्रवाई में पूरा योगदान दिया है।
Well, Tamil Nadu and other flood-affected states have been assured all possible help by the centre. Home Minister Rajnath Singh said this while replying to the debate on the issue in the Lok Sabha. He further said that the centre was currently focusing on helping the states in rescue and relief operations. But MPs from Odisha and West Bengal expressed dissatisfaction at the minister's reply. Here's more.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh informed the House that the Union government has deployed army and NDRF teams to Tamil Nadu. Singh said that more teams are on the standby. The Home Minister also informed Lok Sabha that the government has released funds to the state.
तत्काल राहत के रूप में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री महोदय ने 940.92 करोड़ रुपए की सहायता कर दी है। इस धनराशि को रिलीज कर दिया गया है। भारत सरकार की इंटरमिनिस्ट्रियल सेंट्रल टीम ने 25 से 29 नवंबर 2015 तक राज्य का भ्रमण करके क्या नुकसान हुआ है उसका असेसमेंट कर लिया है। एक सप्ताह के भीतर यह टीम अपनी रिपोर्ट दे देगी।
The Home Minister also assured central government help to Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Odisha and Assam.
आंध्र प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री से भी हमारी बातचीत हुई है। आंध्र प्रदेश राज्य सरकार से 1000 करोड़ रुपए की एक इंटरीम रिलीफ हेतु मेमोरेंडम प्राप्त हुआ है। उड़ीसा के लिए वर्ष 2015-16 के अंतर्गत 280 करोड़ रुपए जारी कर दिए गए हैं और मैं यह भी आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं, उड़ीसा में फैलिन से जो क्षति हुई है कुछ और धनराशि हमको उपलब्ध करानी है। वह जल्द से जल्द वह धनराशि उपलब्ध करा दी जाएगी और हाई लेवल कमेटी की मीटिंग होते ही वह उस संबंध में अंतिम फैसला हो जाएगा।
However, MPs from Tamil Nadu, Odisha and West Bengal did not seem too satisfied with the Home Minister's reply. TMC said that after the dismantling of the Planning Commission, states were not being consulted over amounts allocated to them. These MPs also walked out of the House in protest.
amount in comparison with 6,000 with the flood and 4,000 with the drought, it went up to 10,000 crores. I wanted to know categorically that what is the system of allotment of money. Central team goes, they go back. But when the amount is decided, yes, that is not fixed up in consultation with the chief ministers of the state or any representative.
3 high-level meetings have already been conducted, and I had given specific dates. I would like to understand from the minister, despite those 3 meetings, despite a written assurance to the Godsa government, today we are getting another assurance that in the next high-level meeting, this will be considered.
The House was also informed that the Prime Minister has toured the flood-affected areas in the state. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, a debate there being held in both houses of parliament as to what needs to be done as far as the flood situation in Chennai is concerned. Let's not forget the Prime Minister was there earlier in the day to assess the situation on the ground. He took an aerial tour of the flood-affected areas of Tamil Nadu and also saw what exactly was the kind of relief and other measures that were being taken out or being carried out there by the rescue and relief teams of the Army and the NDRF as well. Of course, several people have been rescued. Boats are being used to try and pull out people who are stranded in many of the areas in Chennai. Also, food and other supplies being dropped there by the rescue and relief teams to ensure that people get at least the basic necessities that they really require. There were several protests that were witnessed also in Chennai earlier today because the residents of the city were not happy with the kind of relief and rescue operations that were being carried out by the teams. Residents of North Chennai, of course, said that no relief teams had reached them to try and assist them at this time of need. Chennai, of course, is reeling under severe flood-like conditions that the worst it has seen in over a century. Well, it's time for a short break now, but the RSS has raised the Ram Temple issue yet again. Details coming up on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Calamities, one after another. Mumbai, Uttarakhand, Kashmir, and now Chennai. Is the lifestyle of the masses impacting the weather? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the confrontation between the government and the Congress over Kumari Selja's remarks ended today. Prime Minister Piyush Goyal expressed regret on his comments. The controversy broke yesterday when the government and the opposition disagreed over the former UPA minister Kumari Selja's claims of caste discrimination at a Gujarat temple. Here's more.
The controversy over Congress MP Kumari Selja's claims of caste discrimination was finally laid to rest on Thursday. Leader of the House Arun Jaitley said that since Kumari Selja herself denied that the temple in question was the one he had mentioned, the matter raised by him ceased to exist.
All that I have to say is that in view of Seljaji's statement that she had made no reference to the main Dwarka temple in her speech on Monday, and which she has reiterated now also and yesterday also, the issue raised by me yesterday doesn't survive. The comments which have been made in the course, I leave it to the chair to go through it. The concerned minister, Mr. Goyal, has already expressed regret for what he had said.
Power Minister Piyush Goyal also expressed regret for his comments on Selja after her entry to a Gujarat temple.
I regret the comment I made with reference to my distinguished colleague, Kumari Selja ji. Thank you.
However, even after Goyal's expression of regret, the proceedings of the House were disrupted many times. The impasse ended only after many rounds of consultations between the party leaders at the behest of the chairman of Rajya Sabha. On Wednesday, Congress members protested against the statements of Arun Jaitley and Piyush Goyal. They alleged that the union ministers distorted Selja's statement that she had experienced a caste bias in a Gujarat temple. This was after Jaitley said that contrary to her claims, Selja's comments in the visitors' book of the temple were full of praises. Goyal claimed it a manufactured discrimination by the Congress. Selja maintained that her remarks did not pertain to the temple mentioned by Jaitley. Priti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, Justice Tirath Singh Thakur was today sworn in as the country's 43rd Chief Justice of India. 63-year-old Justice Thakur was administered the oath of office by President Pranab Mukherjee at an elegant ceremony function at Rashtrapati Bhavan. He is the senior-most judge of the Supreme Court and takes over from Justice H.L. Datu, who retired yesterday. Justice Thakur will have the tenure as CJI for a little over 1 year and will retire on the 4th of January 2017. As the Supreme Court judge, Justice Thakur headed the bench that ordered reforms for the cricket controlling body BCCI after the IPL spot-fixing scandal. He also headed the bench that ordered the probe into the multi-crore Sharda chit fund scam in West Bengal. He also heard UP's NHRM scam. Well, the Ram Temple issue was raked up yet again by the RSS chief on Wednesday. Describing Lord Ram as the symbol of India's culture, Mohan Bhagwat called upon the people to honour him by building the Ram Temple at Ram Janmabhoomi in Ayodhya. The RSS chief's words drew sharp criticism from opposition parties. Expressing hope that the proposed Ram Temple will be built at Ayodhya in his lifetime, RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat on Wednesday said it needs careful planning. Mohan Bhagwat was addressing a program to pay tributes to those who were killed in police firing while performing the symbolic Kar Seva at Ayodhya in 1990. Leaders of several opposition parties criticized the RSS chief for his remarks.
मंदिर निर्माण के बारे में जो कुछ कहा है, मैं समझती हूँ उनको नहीं कहना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये मामला अभी माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट लंबित पड़ा है और हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले का इंतजार करना।
मोहन भागवत जी और भाजपा सन 90 के दशक से इन्होंने राम मंदिर के मसले को राजनीति में डाला हुआ है। इनका मकसद केवल राम मंदिर के मुद्दे से राजनीतिक लाभ उठाने का उनका उद्देश्य है।
कई बार लोगों को ये मूर्ख बना चुके हैं इस बात पर मंदिर बनाएंगे, तो अब जनता इनके इस झूठे नारे में आने वाली नहीं।
There were others who came out in support of him.
मोहन भागवत जी ने जो बयान दिया बिल्कुल स्वागत योग्य, मैं उनके बयान का स्वागत करता हूं और जल्दी से राम मंदिर बनना चाहिए अयोध्या के अंदर, यही सबकी इच्छा है।
NDA ally Shiv Sena said the issue surrounding the construction of the Ram Temple at Ayodhya should not be politicized.
उत्तर प्रदेश के आप चुनाव आने वाले हैं, तो वापस राम मंदिर का मुद्दा अगर राजनीति के लिए बनता है तो जनता हमें माफ नहीं करेगी, बार-बार होता है।
The construction of a Ram Temple in Ayodhya has been a long-standing promise of members of the Sangh Parivar and the ruling BJP. The decades-old dispute is in court and unlikely to see closure anytime soon, as the Apex Court earlier this year observed that it could take 10 years for the case records to be streamlined. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, it's time to take a look at some of the other stories from around the country in Nationwide. Well, the juvenile convict in the brutal 2012 Delhi gang rape case will be closely monitored and not completely free when he comes out of jail after completing his 3-year sentence. He is likely to be lodged with an NGO for a year. He was the youngest of 6 men who raped and brutally tortured a 23-year-old medical student inside a moving bus in the national capital 3 years ago. The nationwide flagship initiative for facilitating easy access for persons with disabilities was today inaugurated by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. Jaitley also presented awards to individuals and organizations for their outstanding contributions towards the empowerment of disabled persons. The government further aims to convert 50% of all government buildings into disabled-friendly by 2018. The prime accused in Kerala's solar panel scam has accused Chief Minister Oman Chandi of accepting bribes from him. Leader of the opposition V.S. Achyutanandan has demanded the Chief Minister's resignation over the allegations. Chandi, however, refuted the claim, saying he would not succumb to blackmail politics. Moving on. Now, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj is likely to visit Pakistan next week for a regional conference on Afghanistan. Pakistan will be co-hosting a ministerial-level conference to discuss regional cooperation, and about 27 countries are expected to attend it. The decision to send the External Affairs Minister comes days after the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on the sidelines of the UN Climate Summit in Paris. The minister's possible visit may also indicate breaking of the deadlock in Indo-Pak ties after the cancellation of the meeting between their NSAs in August. Well, Britain launched its first airstrikes against the Islamic State in Syria. 4 Tornado jets pounded targets in East Syria. Britain now joins France in the US-led coalition to tackle the Islamic State. Protest marches were also held in several UK cities against the Parliament vote.
On Thursday, 4 British fighter jets took off from country's military base in Cyprus. This was just hours after the UK Parliament voted to bomb Islamic State targets in Syria, taking their fight against the terrorist outfit beyond Iraqi borders. The British strikes targeted the Omar oil fields in East Syria.
While we are using airstrikes to contain and degrade ISIL in Raqqa, we will be pursuing a political track trying to resolve the Syrian civil war. But it's only when those two things come together, when the degradation of ISIL in Raqqa and the creation of a transitional Syrian government are both happening, that we can then actually utilize the forces that are currently fighting each other.
Taking advantage of a divided opposition, British Prime Minister David Cameron got 66 Labour MPs on his side. MPs voted 397 in favour and 223 against. The British Foreign Secretary also hinted at a ground assault after a transitional government is formed in Syria. US President Barack Obama welcomed the action.
The time for a ground assault against Raqqa will be when a transitional government is in place in Syria, because all these people that we need to focus on ISIL are busy fighting each other at the moment in the civil war.
The spotlight has now shifted to Germany, whose parliament is expected to take up the vote to approve greater military commitment against the terrorists. On the ground in Syria, the battle is raging across Homs and Deraa. The Islamic State, on the other hand, has renewed threats against Russia as well. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the war of words over the downing of a Russian jet near the Syrian border is continuing. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that Turkey will regret more than once the shooting down of the jet, indirectly pointing out that more sanctions could be imposed on Ankara. Delivering the annual State of the Nation address, Putin said Russia will not ignore what he described as Turkey's action of aiding of terrorists. He also called for a broad international front against terrorism, accusing Turkey of buying oil from the IS. Turkey dismissed Russian allegations. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stands firm on his comment that he would resign if such allegations were proved. Moving on to some sports news now. India scored 231 for the loss of 7 wickets on day 1 in the 4th and final test at Delhi. Winning the toss against South Africa and opting to bat first, the hosts got off to a cautious start. At lunch, they were 60 for 1, but all that changed post-lunch when they lost 5 wickets in quick succession. Ajinkya Rahane's maiden 50 on home soil helped India bounce back after South African off-spinner Dane Peat took a 4-wicket haul. Peat dismissed opener Murli Vijay in the morning before claiming 3 more wickets after lunch to put the Proteas in the driver's seat. Pacer Kyle Abbott claimed the other 3 wickets. The South Africans will be backing their bowlers to finish off the first innings quickly. India, who have an unassailable lead of 2-0 in the 4-match series, will look to stretch their first innings lead beyond the 300 mark.
Asking for trouble.
That's it on this edition of the news. Have a good evening.